button even if I don't need a button. I always want a button.
Uh-oh.
And on that note, welcome to A Little Too Quiet, the Ferndale Library podcast, brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. I'm Erin, and I'm your host for today. Hey everyone, it's been a hot minute, but I couldn't say no to hosting the annual episode about baking. Yay! And I'm here today with some other baking aficionados. I'm here with Melissa.
Hi.
I'm here with Julia.
Hi.
And Sam.
Hi.
So everyone, holidays coming up, baking season is upon us. Who is excited?
What's the best part?
It's hard to say.
Well, you were going to bake some cookies yesterday. This is being
I did, and then
didn't bring them in to share.
No. So first of all,
Did you sacrifice them to
I
the
don't
trash can gods?
really bake, which is why when I got an email to be on this podcast, I went, "Is this like a bit? Like, is this a joke?" I was scared.
We're representing all levels of baking
Yeah.
here. We're very open in the baking community to all levels of experience.
I took home a book called Snacking Bakes because I love the other cookbook that this chef and author made, which is Snacking Cakes. And I have had success with that one.
Mhm.
First of all, because I feel like my problem is with baking is that it makes too much, and then I don't like sharing, but also then I end up wasting it because I can't eat an entire cake by myself. I have a fear of people
So
being like, "This
Whoa.
sucks." Okay, so anyway,
Such a difference.
That's different than not
I
wanting to share.
made. I don't know. To me, it's kind of the same. That's why I don't want to share. But anyways, there was a recipe in here for savory shortbread cookies, and I was like, "Well, that's interesting," and also required the least amount of ingredients.
Mhm.
And I made them, and then I was a little bit disappointed because I was like, they don't really taste like anything because they were just salt and pepper shortbread.
Oh, that's kind of
I
sad.
think it may have been the recipe and not me.
Do you want to know my secret to a good
Definitely.
savory shortbread? I love a good
Yes.
basil. Some fresh basil or dried basil in with shortbread.
I love
When
that.
you're having like an Italian dinner, like a little lasagna, a little bread, a little shortbread with basil cookie.
I
You
think
can never go wrong with basil.
I had literally never had or even heard of having a savory shortbread. I don't know why that's never come.
No, I've never really.
No, so I was like, wow, maybe this is gonna be my next new thing, and then it's not. But
It
that's
could
okay.
still be. You know,
Yeah,
Rome wasn't
maybe
built in a
next
day.
Maybe next
The
time.
savory shortbread wasn't built into one bake.
It was
experiment.
just like, to me, it tasted like I made biscuits wrong.
Well, you.
No.
Well, that you did, but that's kind of what the shortbread is. It's just very like.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Like
like a little.
Yes, I'm glad you could hear what I did.
Yeah.
Thanks for
But-
clarifying.
But that's baking. Like you have to get them wrong.
Yeah.
That's just part of the
Yeah.
process.
And
And then you give it to the sacrifice to the trash cans, and then your next batch is good.
Oh, see, if I
I
have something
still
go wrong,
ate
I give it to my
some.
dad.
I think
He'll lie to my
I
face and tell me it was good.
also was like, it's getting dark at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And now when I got home and spent an hour making those, I was like, well, now I just have to go to bed, I guess.
Yeah, it's time.
Does it make you appreciate when I bring in giant things to share them more, Julia?
Yes.
I always appreciated that. Anyways, I'm gonna throw the mic because that was just my most recent baking adventure
Aw.
gone wrong.
What did you bake most recently, Sam?
I have not baked recently. I feel like I mostly bake if I'm trying to make something like for a get together or
Mhm.
as like gifts for friends or something like that.
Are you doing baking then with the holidays coming
I
up?
plan to. We were talking though a little bit before we started about how baking feels like to me. I'm also not great at it, and I like the to follow a recipe and have like such strict rules and then have it come out and not be perfect just makes me it just makes me angry. So
I
like
feel like there's the unwritten set of rules
Yeah.
underneath the recipe, which is like kind of unfair that they don't
So-
always put
yeah.
that
Yes,
into the
sometimes.
recipe.
That's what I was saying
Yeah.
to Sam. I was like, sometimes I feel like even though everything's there, it's like too vague. I'm like, what do you mean?
I
make
actually
dough.
like
What do you mean?
sometimes like the cooking
Roll
and
it.
baking blogs are a lot better about that because if you read the actual blog entry, it'll tell you like the little tip thing is.
Sometimes I feel like I'm on Bake Off when they get the very vague and they're like,
Oh, yeah.
make
the technical.
yeah, the technical, exactly. That's sometimes what it feels like in real life. You're just in your kitchen like, oh,
Thank goodness we don't have Paul Hollywood judging us.
Right.
Speak for yourself.
Is Paul just hanging out down here in Detroit?
Those icy blue eyes. Just
Oh my.
looking at you in your
I'm
kitchen.
scared. I'm like, I know I have blue eyes, and that's like my fear that when I look at people, they're like scared.
Not at all.
Whoa, Julia, stop looking at
Yeah,
me.
good thing you guys
Oh,
can't
take
see
it.
me right now.
Alyssa, what about you? Have you baked anything recently?
I've baked lots of things recently. Just over the weekend, I made cake mix cookies. Super easy. And then I brought in pumpkin pie and a vegan pumpkin pie. All
sad I missed the
completely
pie.
from scratch.
The
That
pies
was-
were delicious.
Brought those in here last week. And then we got a new cookbook, the King Arthur Big Book of Bread. And I made a couple recipes out of that. One did not turn out as well. It was
Science
a
experiments.
little
It just
dense, but we ate it anyways at game night. It was fine. It tasted fine, but it was definitely more the consistency of a doorstop. But it was great. And then I made regular bread to go with that. And then I bake all kinds of things.
I have to say, generally, I love King Arthur Bakery, like bread recipes, except for the challah bread recipe that they have. I cannot get to turn out for me. It turns into like an overdone on the outside, completely doughy raw inside every single time. And
It's
I
tricky.
don't know what I'm doing wrong because I can bake all other kinds of bread just fine.
My problem with the one bread, it was like a honey cornbread type. And I probably didn't need it long enough. I don't have a stand mixer, so I was doing it by hand. And my counters are about 3 inches too tall for me.
Oh, no.
And then I forgot my furnace like automatically sets itself to a lower temperature. And I rushed the second rise because it was like 10:30 at night and I wanted to go to bed. And I probably didn't let it rise enough the second time, so it was just really dense.
See, baking is science.
It is.
The climate matters.
Yeah, oh yeah. I think bread out of all the different kinds of baking is one of the more like scientifically minded.
I've never tried to just make
Well,
bread.
guess what I
would
have
love
that
to
you might
someday.
enjoy.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
brought as like a book to talk about today. Everyday Bread by America's Test Kitchen.
Nice.
It's a library book. It's great. It's got some very friendly ones. A good one to start with are no-knead types of bread because you
Yes.
don't have to knead them. You do have to usually have like a Dutch oven, but aside from some equipment, they're really easy and tasty, and they look all pretty and rustic. And you're like, I'm just walking down the streets of France with my little fancy bread, time for soup. That's what I imagine
That's
every
your-
single
Yeah.
time I have a no-knead bread. That's what goes through my head. I'm like, look at me. I could be in a log cabin.
Well, the bread on the cover of the book.
Yes,
looks
it's got- it's
delicious,
really great
And I
'cause
wish we had it right here.
It's got like the no-kneads. It's got rolls, savory breads, sweeter breads, holiday breads,
Brioche.
pizzas,
Wow.
like all the different kinds of bread. I personally love a good roll. Rolls are my go-to bread thing because I just like forming the little roll shape because you kind of make like a little, I don't know, like almost like a little balloon around it out of the dough itself to get it to come on the right shape, and that's just very satisfying. So I recommend the rolls, but it's tasty and you should try making bread, Sarah.
I should.
The,
I think
that's what
I-
this whole is about. Come
Yeah.
to France with
Tis
me.
the season.
Oh, yeah, there's a
Make
super
some-
easy way to cheat if you want kneaded bread. Get a cheap bread machine and only use the dough setting. Let it do all the proofing, the kneading and the rising for you, and then make rolls.
Mm-hmm. My dad does
That's
that.
a really
Yeah.
good intro to starting.
He loves to make machine bread, and he just uses like a $5 one he got from like the local Salvation
Interesting.
Army or something like that, and it makes good bread every time. You just throw the
Wow.
stuff in, and it does the mixing and the kneading and the baking and the proofing, and not in that order, but all those things. It does all the steps, and you have bread, and that's a good like baby step in. And then after that, you just take away some of the steps from the machine, you start to take over some of the steps yourself, and next thing you know,
Bacon bread.
you're baking bread.
You can make bread. It's got wicked pizza crust. Super
Whoa.
easy that way.
And you usually
Bagels. I've used it to make bagels.
Yeah,
Oh,
bagels
wow.
are great. Actually, I don't know if I like making rolls more or bagels /
Bagels are fun.
pretzels.
Ooh, pretzels are fun too.
I
Pretzels are
just had flashbacks to a job I had at a store called Whole Foods Market. You may have heard of it in the
No.
bakery.
Oh,
And I would make the shape of that was also great.
Oh,
But I also has anybody else worked in food service where you worked with like baking even like sandwich bread?
I wish.
Right.
No, I've only been in
I
libraries.
used
I
to
was
work
gonna
at an
say-
Italian restaurant. We just used to make like
Just
the dipping.
I worked
bread
at
rolls,
like
but
at Jimmy John's as well. So like I was just thinking of like when you proof the bread and you have to touch it and it's a certain temperature and a certain feeling on your fingers and then you know it's ready to go up. So I was like, oh yeah, I guess I kind of did.
That's honestly one of the hardest parts is knowing, like, based on like the touch, like when it's ready
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And
They
you already
came
have that.
frozen and you would stretch them out and make them the perfect shape
Wow.
and then tap them to know when they went up.
The
But
only
yeah,
thing
that's
I
cool.
You're,
did
like,
was
halfway there.
toast people's bagels at a coffee shop. And you also have to pay
And thank
attention
goodness
to
for
know
you.
when they're done. Yeah. That was hard.
That's
Like,
okay. I've never
true.
had to do it.
True.
They're saying true because we're going to be playing a game later that involves some true or false questions, and I've given them all little paddles that have true and false on them, just for some context for
Little
our
goblins.
listeners at home.
Yeah.
Why we're just
Normalized context.
They also have buzzers,
No
so I
context.
apologize in advance.
We've
There you
been
go.
really good about that so far.
I'm actually kind of proud. Good job,
I
everyone.
really wanted to do that
I've-
before. I just did. And
I'm
I
like
apologize.
playing with this little piece of Velcro down here so I don't touch the buzzer.
I wanted to for the last like 20 minutes, but when you said it, I was like,
This is willpower, y'all.
I lost.
Okay, so we've talked a bit about like what we've baked most recently. Is there something special though, or like do you have a typical bake or type of bake that you like to do over the holiday season?
I love making like pastries and pies.
Mm.
So like I love like pumpkin pie. I love making it just because it's kind of fun to roast the pumpkins and then throw it in my food processor and make puree and all
That's
that
so
kind of fun
impressive.
stuff. But I also like to make my grandma's pecan pie recipe every year too.
Sometimes like the family recipes are like the best ones
They
too.
are. It's pretty good.
Like
It's
grandma's
pretty good.
usually got those recipes on lock.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much my grandma, but other people's grandmas too. My grandma was maybe more of a we got a box of this and add some of this and ta-da.
That's so
We bought
valid.
you
a
know.
ready to bake apple pie and we put it in the oven.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've made the pies for most of the family get-togethers and
Mhm.
for years.
I'm gonna mix it up this year. Usually, as you may know, I do the hardtack potatoes for Thanksgiving. This year, I'm saying no. I am going to bake dessert and the rolls.
Yes.
So,
Do you think that they're going to be upset about
oh yes, for sure.
They're gonna
But
mute you.
someone
Wait
else,
a minute.
someone else can make the potatoes. It's not like they're taken off of the menu completely, because usually someone else makes rolls, and my brother-in-law does a really good job making the rolls because he makes them from scratch. But the dessert sometimes has just been like a store-bought pie, and I can do better.
Yes.
I could beat Costco.
Yes.
So I'm thinking of doing like a salted maple tart this year for Thanksgiving.
That
'Cause
sounds
I've been
good.
really into tarts lately because pie crust has long eluded me. I cannot make a
I
good
can't
pie
either.
crust.
You'll
But
have
a
to teach
tart
us.
crust-
I will.
A tart crust is so easy because it's essentially just like a shortbread
Yes,
crust.
it is a short crust.
Oh,
So
call me out.
you can do it. I have faith in you.
You make
Yeah.
it and bring it in, and then we will
Yeah,
test it.
yeah.
And then maybe
I've-
you'll get a handshake.
I've done this one crust like over and over and over at this point. It's just I just will tweak it depending on the recipe. So like I made the same crust for my dad's birthday over the weekend, but I put lemon zest because we did a lemon curd and sweetened cream cheese filling on it. So it had like a lemony cheesecake vibe. But for like the salted maple one, I'm thinking you're going to put pretzel bits in the crust
Oh, that'll be good.
to add like that salt and a little bit of that like pretzel-y kind of flavor, because I think pretzel would actually go really well with the maple.
Yeah.
And then it'll have like the salted maple kind of filling from the sister pie.
That's exactly
salted
what I
maple
was
pie.
just going to say.
Because I've
That's
made
one I've
that
always
pie,
wanted to
and
make.
that's one of my favorites. So that's the goal. That's the dream. I don't know what I'm gonna do for the rolls yet, but I have a vision. I just got to foist these potatoes on someone else so I could do the baking.
If you could make 2 batches of each thing to also bring them in here, that would be
Yeah, who wants to be a guinea pig?
Oh no.
There's a raising of 2 hands.
maple.
I see Jeff wants to try things, even though I'm pretty sure they would not work for Jeff to eat because none of them will be vegan. And it's Sam. Thank you, Sam.
But the secret to a good pie crust is a lot of frozen butter
Mm-hmm.
and apple cider vinegar.
I have heard that.
Sister Pie. That book will tell you that.
Yeah. My
You
problem
can use
is
regular
that.
vinegar mixed in with the water. You can use regular, but apple cider vinegar just gives it just a little bit of extra flavor. And you have to work it, and you can't work it too much. You have to be really careful to keep
I think
chunks
that's
of
my
butter.
problem is I always overwork it.
Yeah, and you have to keep the chunks of butter and then throw it in the freezer for like 10-15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then, depending on the type of pie, pre-bake the crust. I use beans. I know some people use fancy pie weights.
I love
use
my
beans.
pie weights. They're pretty and cute and colorful.
But you can use the bean. I use white northern beans, and then you can use them as pie beans. And then when you're done baking them, then you can just turn them into eating beans.
Pie
To be
weights are pretty
honest.
clever. I just pour them back into a thing and don't have to worry about making
I
another
have
dish.
no idea what you're talking about.
I don't have
Okay.
to. Then I pour them back.
Tell me what you mean.
So pie weights versus beans, both of them. If you are doing a pie filling where you're not cooking the filling in the oven, you're just cooking the crust. Like let's say you're doing like a custard pie
Mm-hmm.
or a pudding pie. You're gonna pre-bake your crust, and if you just throw the crust in there without chilling it, without putting
Okay,
these
okay.
weights, what's gonna happen is all of the crust is gonna go whoop in the center and go
we
up.
don't want it to do that. We wanna
And
leave-
sometimes
okay.
the edges of the crust, if your name is Aaron, are gonna go, "Phew," and the edges will come in. So that's why freezing the dough helps to make sure that your butter doesn't melt
Yes.
too soon.
Yes.
Okay.
And the pie weights help make it
Keep
keep
that
the right
down.
shape.
Mhm.
And then if you're doing a fruit pie or a custard pie that's going to be kind of wet, doing like a partial bake will keep the crust from turning soggy because it's already partly
Don't want that
baked
soggy
through.
bottom.
No,
Nope.
nobody wants a soggy bottom.
Soggy bottom.
Exactly, that's the only way to say it. But yeah,
Got it,
like
yep.
you do the part break so
Interesting.
that way you get a
What are you
nice,
doing with
beautiful apple pie.
Beans.
Yes.
But I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like pie weights. But
Okay,
beans
pie
are also
weights
great.
pretty, but yeah, beans.
Both
just
of
a good
them,
dry
both
bean
of them
meal.
are good options. I think we could agree.
Yes.
Yay.
but also tarts.
A
Like,
resolution.
in case there's a listener who doesn't know what they're talking about either. Yeah, what
This
do
is
you
why we
mean?
have all levels of
Yeah.
knowledge here at this table. Because otherwise, we would just be like, "Ah, yes, I like to use this specific brand of thing." And,
What?
But you know what? That sounds like a good time. Let's play our mini game. Ooh. I have in front of me 10 true or false statements about baking things. Now, the caveat here, as I was testing it out with my dear colleague, is that some of the things in here are technically true facts of what you should do, but that doesn't mean that everyone actually does them.
Yes.
But we're going with what you technically should do.
Oh, no. Okay.
Interesting.
The true and false of
I
them.
love
you
being
should
technical.
do.
Some of these are a little
I just looked
controversial,
them
and we can
up.
talk about them. If you feel something is controversial as we go, hit your buzzer.
Oh, okay.
That's where the buzzers are going to come in. If you have thoughts and feelings you need to share. Otherwise, I will read a statement. All of our contestants on this game show have 2 paddles with true or false on them. They will raise the paddle they think matches with the statement, and I will describe what they have, and then we will talk about what's true or false. Are we ready to play?
True.
Julia's not ready.
Technical knowledge, I don't have that.
Hey, you have a 50-50
I have
True.
a wide variety
That
of
makes sense.
difficulty levels here. Some of them are tricky. Some of them are not. Are
Wait,
very,
don't set
very
me up to be
honest.
embarrassed.
I
Aaron.
promise you, there's at least one in here I know you will get because I did write them with
Aaron.
all levels. You'll be fine.
I mean, you might have a chance
You'll be
because
fine.
my cooking level is that sounds good together.
Yeah, we are
And I
not.
just throw it
We're
in.
not keeping score. Just know in your heart who's the
I'm
winner.
keeping score.
Yeah, I also feel like the
We were
listeners
like,
may be keeping score.
I might be
I'm
slightly
not.
meaner because Julia
one
beat
tell
me
me
at
what I
Mario
got.
Kart
Nobody
earlier
tell me
today,
how I
and I am
scored.
a poor loser.
I did get first place in Mario Kart at like 9:30 this morning. That was the highlight of my day.
I got it like 7th place.
I love this.
I'm
I'm
pretty
so bad
sure
at Mario
Julia
Kart.
knocked me off of the course.
Yes,
Play.
everyone's like, "Who's being so aggressive?" And I was like, "Wait, I don't know." And
It was
me.
Julia.
What are you talking about?
Oh,
That's so mean.
alrighty. Question number 1, or statement number 1. Opening your oven door during the baking process can cause your cake to fall or collapse.
And I always do it.
We've got
so-
a true from Sam. We've got a true over there for
It's-
Julia. What's Melissa doing?
Okay, I'm doing technically true, but in reality, there's very, very few dishes that it actually matters.
Yes, this is partially why I had that caveat at the beginning. It is, in fact, technically true, where when you open the door, you introduce a rush of cold air, and it can let out the hot air, which could potentially cause your cake to fall. I have literally never had that happen when I open up my oven.
Wait, I think I have because I opened it like 15 times in like 30 minutes.
So maybe I probably how much and how long you.
How early?
Are you
How
cracking
early
it
on?
open? Or are you just like opening the whole thing?
Opening
and,
your-
like, saying-
Oh, that's a good
I'm not
question.
just opening it a crack because I'm not sticking my head in there. Like I need to open enough.
So
Put a toothpick in
this
it,
explains so much. No. just
But
kidding.
you know what? I knew it was true.
But you know the
I
truth
just did it
is.
anyways. And that's on that.
Okay, question number 2. Eggs need to be left out overnight before use in baking so they can properly come to room temperature.
Wait, that feels like too long.
I see everyone's
No.
got false. It is in fact false. Please do not leave your eggs out unless you have your eggs straight from your own chickens where they haven't washed the membrane off of the shell of the egg, which acts as a protective barrier.
Yeah.
Unless you've got that kind of situation going on.
in the U.S.
in
you
the
cannot-
U.S. here,
Don't leave your eggs out that long.
don't leave your eggs out that
No
long.
one wants cake with a side of salmonella.
No.
No.
I mean, you do want your eggs to come up to room temp in a lot of cases just because you don't want it interacting with the butter and then your butter ends up being a beautiful creamy thing to suddenly chunky and clunky and all not so beautiful anymore. But yeah, no,
We're
don't do it overnight.
Passionate about food
Please.
safety on this
Yeah,
podcast.
2
hours. Like, that's fine.
I just hold it in my hands for a couple of minutes like it's my baby.
I
It's
also
fine.
don't care and do it anyways, just straight from the fridge. It's fine.
Depends on what I'm doing. If it's cheesecake, I absolutely have to let that sucker come up, or otherwise I get clumps in my cheesecake, and that bothers me. Next question.
Like,
Dry and wet ingredients should be mixed separately before combining them together.
That's what the boxes always say.
I don't
Okay,
know.
Here's another one. Like,
Julia's just holding up
Looked it up
both
both.
of the paddles.
I need a question mark.
so I am saying true.
Mhm.
Do I do this? No. But I am saying that you're supposed to.
Oh.
Yes, it is true. Technically, you are
All
supposed to.
the
I also do
time?
not usually because who wants to wash an extra bowl?
Doesn't the box?
Exactly.
The box
Like,
says
It all goes in the same thing. Unless, there's, again, very specific dishes that I will. But no one has time for that.
No one has time. They say. Well, actually, does anyone want to guess why you should separate them? Why they say you should separate them?
So that everything's evenly distributed.
It is a little bit that. So basically, they say it will blend easier. requiring less mixing. It also,
Yeah.
it's keeping you from over mixing and also equal dispersion. So it's a little bit
Extra credit.
extra
I
credit.
think they're just supporting the dishwasher industry.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I think it all comes down to them and Dawn Soap have a thing together.
so.
Because you can usually have to hand wash all of my stick and mixing bowls. They never fit in the dishwasher.
And you need the big set with 5 different sizes.
Yeah. All pretty. All right. Next statement. All baking pans bake things the same. I see.
We're all
False,
waiting.
false, false. And that's the correct answer.
And that's true.
I almost,
wait a minute.
I almost said that. I'm like, oh, that's going to be confusing. No. So, yeah, the color, material, and shape all impact how the bake will go, due to the differences in how they can, conduce heat and the airflow and how they retain heat, like all that kind of sciencey stuff plays an effect there. So yeah, they don't all bake the same. If it says different temperature and time for a dark pan, they mean it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that as a child the hard way.
Oh.
Aw, those poor brownies.
You ate them anyway.
I sure did with ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice cream helps a lot.
Were they crunchy?
Yeah, which is they were a little bit burnt, a little bit crunchy, which is unfortunately like the opposite of how I like mine. I am a middle brownie person. I'm not an edge person.
I only like the edges.
I'm sorry. You need to use your buzzer.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me.
I only like the edges. Edit out the first time I said that.
The first time we weren't sure if you meant it, but after the buzzer,
Yeah.
we know now.
Did you
for
know
sure.
they make brownie pans that you can do all edge brownies?
Yeah, I should invest in one because I do make brownies often,
I
and then
just-
just get
feels
someone
like
else to eat the
especially.
rest.
I don't love specialty pans that you can only use for one thing.
You can also make square cupcakes.
There you go.
But then you can't have the fun liners with the colors and the patterns and the joy.
I'm sure they make printed
Decoration.
parchment
That's what
paper.
sprinkles are for.
I want it all.
It's not enough.
Gosh, am I making cake? It has to be the most joyous cake ever.
You could make little rectangular tarts.
Ooh.
Aaron, sounds like
I-
you should get this pan and then let me borrow it.
There you go. Well, maybe I'll go and see. I know we don't carry baking pans here, but I think my local library does, and a lot of library things too. So if your local library isn't the Ferndale Library, but you have a library of things, check it out. Maybe there's some fun shaped pans at your local library, listeners. That's a plug for all libraries.
True,
You're welcome. All right, on to number 5. This one's a little different. This one's not baking so much as a dessert type component. It's stovetop. When making custards on a stovetop, vanilla extract should be added at the beginning to allow the flavor to develop.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna guess false.
Okay, I see a false. I see a false from Julia.
Last time I made custard, I am 99% sure that was not true. So that was false.
It could have changed.
It's not possible.
I'm pretty sure it's been a while since I made an actual custard.
Yeah, everyone,
never
you
made
got it
custard.
right. That
Because
is
it
false.
burns.
Yeah. So what happens is actually the alcohol content in the extract it'll burn off with the high heat if you do it for too long. Which is why usually what they want you to do when you're
like
making like a
halfway.
custard or pudding. No, you want to wait to the very end after
Okay.
you've removed it from the heat to stir it in. Actually.
That's what
Okay,
I learned
that's what I
when
consider
making
halfway.
vanilla
Is
syrup.
remove it because that's like
Oh, before the chilling
Before the
stage?
chilling
Okay,
stage.
gotcha.
That's my version of halfway.
I thought
even
you meant
though
like
it
halfway
takes,
through
like-
the cookie on the stove.
No,
Uh-oh.
no, my version halfway through the recipe.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go.
Learning so much here. Wow.
Isn't it fun to learn?
It is fun to learn.
I love it. Also, I learned so much while going and trying to find fun facts for this to do. All right, number 6. You should always sift, spoon, or weigh your flour.
All 3?
Or you should do one of the following methods: sift,
Oh,
spoon,
one of the
or weigh.
following. Okay.
I'm not
I know
sure
that
what
everyone
those mean.
does, but you should.
Wait, I never even picked up a paddle yet. Well, now that I see everyone else said true. Yeah.
I don't
Should.
do this, but I feel like it's something I should be doing.
It is something you technically should do.
Depending on what I'm making. If I'm making like pastries or pie crust or something like that, I generally don't weigh. I don't always measure. I just go by how things feel and look.
You're lucky.
Actually, no,
Some
for
people-
bread, that is kind of like it's
Yeah,
weigh
you-
first, and then
Yeah,
you
you
go
start
by
with
feel
a
past
measurement,
that.
and then you kind of add as you need to, depending on the
Yeah, because
temperature and
the humidity in your
and-
room can affect how
and
much flour you need to add to bread.
But like pastries and stuff is usually very weigh, sift, all of that. That's super important to get the proper like
Ratio.
ratio and the consistency and the texture and the fluffy and that.
I know what sifting is. I know what weighing is. It's spoon just
It's
picking
weird.
up with the spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
picking it with a
Oh.
spoon and popping in, because basically what happens if you scoop your flour, like just using like the measuring cup and you go scoop into like the bag, it'll compact the flour. And here's the mathematical stat. You get 10 to 20% more flour in your recipe than intended.
Wow.
Yes. And also,
Oh,
if you're
wow.
using the measuring cup, you absolutely have to like knock it all into the cup and then wipe the excess off.
But don't like push like.
Yeah, you can't push it.
Don't
Cram
push it. You just
Yeah.
kind of like I take the back
That's
of a
a good-
knife and just like bang it across the top of the measuring cup,
Wow.
and then
I have
Slide the
a
extra
fancy flour container where it's got like a built-in thing where you just
Nice.
gently run it across the,
Oh.
and
Wow.
it goes and it does that for me.
my flour container is a bear from Old Animal
Aw.
Crackers. So I have a flour bear. My flour bear.
Very cute.
He holds about 5 pounds. It's perfect.
I love that.
And then I have a giant bag in a Tupperware container in the corner of my kitchen. I get it like
When you
25.
refill flour
I get it like
bear.
25 pounds at a time, and then
You
I refill
bulk buy?
flour bear.
Wow.
That's legit. I don't have the space for that, but I have a dream. A dream where I can just have giant containers of flour and sugar in my home.
Rolling pet food containers.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right. Next question. You should never freeze bread dough as it will kill the yeast. I see a false from Melissa. I see some questioning looks from the other half of the table.
Well,
Before
why
people-
would
I don't
you
know.
want to freeze it? I'm
I-
confused.
Do you,
Because you make way too much at once.
Sometimes you want to batch make some bread, so you might maybe...
Or you make like 5 pie crusts at a time, and you only need to make 1 pie.
Well, technically that's not
sometimes
bread,
not
but
bread.
But you can.
Oh, yeah.
Or you want to make a ton of pizza crusts and throw them in the
Okay,
freezer.
That makes sense to me.
or sometimes
Thanks for going back.
there's some people that have a lot of self-control. They'll make a whole cookie batch and then they'll.
sometimes I'll make
freeze
like 2
3/4 of
loaves
it.
worth of bread at once, but I only want to eat one, or be able to only get through one and like keep it fresh. So I'll freeze one for later, and then I'll cook one straight out, and then ta-da, bread now, bread later, and then the next time I want bread, I can just go freezer bread. Yeah, so basically it just inhibits the yeast. It doesn't kill the yeast to freeze it. So you'll want to like let it come back up to room temp before you go and bake it.
Yes.
So that way the yeast is ready to party and make your bread all lovely. But yeah, it won't die off in the freezer. So it's a good make ahead kind of technique that you can do if you feel like it.
Bread is
This
very
one
advanced to me. so-
It's not baking directly, but kind of is more baking history related. Betty Crocker, the name behind the brand, belongs to the wife of Fred Crocker, the company's original CEO.
Oh, I know this. It's in a.
Sam
Well,
says
For
false.
some reason, I always didn't think that was a real person.
Fred. It's
I
not
mean,
a.
I'm sure someone has named that, but
Betty
somebody
Crocker is not a
somewhere.
real person. But.
she's gonna be so mad that you
She's-
said that.
You know how long ago? You know how long ago I read this? There's a really, really good book that actually talks about all of this. Something from the Oven, and talks
Oh.
all about the whole Betty Crocker. And I haven't read that since 2019, and I don't remember.
I know which book you're talking about. It's a great book though,
It's a
because it kind of talks
fantastic
about
book.
like the whole marketization and
Yes, and
the
TV
whole movement of like
dinners
how
and-
baking from the box, you know,
Yes.
box mixed cakes and all that became such
Fantastic
a
book.
thing, and canned food became such a thing.
I'm gonna say she was named after somebody's family member, but she's not a real person.
In fact, she is not a real person. It is a made up name by the company for the sake of selling you cake and brownie mixes.
Wow.
Isn't it a shame?
They just
They
made
could
up
just have a nice romantic gesture.
a woman's name.
for Fred Crocker who did not exist. I don't even know who the original CEO was.
I was gonna say I need to find out who that is. Find out what his wife's name was.
Yeah. Someone could do that research.
I think you can
afterwards.
totally find that information in the book called Something from the Oven.
Ooh, do we have it at the library?
Local
You know, I do
library.
not know. We'll have to go bother one of our reference librarians when we leave here
I
Yeah.
know some of
and
them.
go see if we have it or if it's in the TLN system, and we could probably get it
That's
in
the
a
nice thing
couple
about
of
the
days.
Yay!
Yay!
All right, next question. I keep calling them questions when they're not statement. I want to be technically correct. For best results, you should refrigerate the bowl before making whipped cream in it. I see a true from Melissa. I see a shaking of the head from Julia.
Whipped cream has a lot of rules. That's what I know.
It doesn't.
I feel like it does.
It so does not.
You're probably thinking meringue has a couple. of
Meringue has
rules.
rules. Whipped cream is cream, sugar,
cold bowl.
vanilla,
Air.
cold bowl. Well, yeah, air. Yeah, that's the whipped part. I mean, that's the whipped part.
It's a vital ingredient.
So, and again, this is when I'm going to go with technically yes. You should use a cold bowl because you're using cold cream and it helps it form better.
Okay.
Do I do that? No, I just pull it out of my cabinets.
Okay.
But also, I don't keep my heat in my house very high, so my bowls are probably pretty kind of cold to begin with.
Yeah, I also don't follow this rule for whipped cream, though I know. But you do get apparently about 7% more volume.
That doesn't seem worth it.
But is it worth it? Do I have the room in my fridge for my giant mixing bowl? No. So we'll go with 7% less volume. But I also don't usually make regular whipped cream. I make stabilized whipped cream.
Okay.
You add in milk powder to it and it helps the structure. So basically, like regular whipped cream will eventually deflate, right? Adding the milk powder adds protein to it, and the protein, when whipped up, helps it hold its structure for longer.
Interesting.
So
How long do you have whipped cream around? Because it usually
if I want to make it like in advance for a family event, I'll usually stabilize it. Or if I'm putting it into
okay.
like a pastry, like I'll make
Yeah.
choux cream puffs and stuff like that. And
Okay.
sometimes like
that
Whipped
that
cream's
tracks.
good.
I'm just like I will just sit there and eat the whipped cream that's left over. I don't.
I mean
I don't.
that's the joy of licking the bowl afterwards. Yeah. All right. Or you can, if you want to do like as a frosting on a cake or something like that, and like as you spread it, you're gonna knock out less of the air too, which is also
true.
handy tip if you like to have whipped cream for your frosting. All right, we are down to the last of the question statements. Julia's ready for this portion to be over.
I'm having a great time. I was actually gonna buzz in on the last one and say I'm scared of whipped cream, so I won't ever be making it or
Whipped
eating
cream
it.
is nice and
So
easy. It's
Oh, I mean, like, I
Meringue
think I have
is
a
the worst.
dairy phobia. That's why.
Okay.
Not that I'm scared to make it. I'm scared of it. So
I'm getting the signs of approval from Jeff. So you got someone in your
That's
corner,
Yeah.
quite literally
Double
in this
buzzed
room, and also morally supporting you. Okay, so this one's kind of a fun one. Sauerkraut can be added to chocolate cake for a moister, richer cake.
Unfortunately, I believe that is true.
wait, that doesn't have an impact on the flavor.
It does.
Well, that
absolutely
also
does.
doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah.
Everyone did raise their true panel, even though some of us wish it wasn't true. Can it affect the texture? Yes. Melissa, you want to tell us about the flavor?
It's.
Wait, I'm so confused. Wait, can you read it again? Because I feel like I actually
over.
don't understand.
Yes.
Wait.
There's a way to make like a German chocolate cake, but you use sauerkraut in it. I cannot remember. We have a couple of cookbooks here that actually have it in there. And I know I have one.
There's
of
a
mine
very
at home.
popular social media baker who does a lot of like wartime baking, Depression era baking, stuff like that. He's got a recipe for it in his cookbook, I believe, that basically, yeah, you use sauerkraut. It's supposed to basically, I think, like the acid.
Yeah, the taste is fine.
Kind of helps.
The taste
chocolate
isn't a problem. It tastes pretty good.
The chocolate overwhelms all other flavors.
Yes, it's the texture that got me.
Okay, so it's like a historic thing, but we're still doing it because
some
there's
people
nothing
still
else
do it.
that has that effect.
I
Like,
wouldn't.
wait, I guess are people just throwing random stuff in their chocolate cake and seeing if it has the same effect? That's what I'm gonna be doing.
No, so if
But,
I
like,
want a
there's nothing
moisture,
better.
if I want a moisture cake, you can either go and you can gelatinize some flour and throw that in there, flour with some milk. You can throw that in there, or instant pudding mix, throw in a packet of it, does a great job.
And it's not cabbage.
Nope, not sauerkraut. So it's great. It doesn't affect the texture except for to make it moister. And then if you want it to be like a richer, deeper chocolate flavor, add some espresso powder. Or instead of hot water in your cake, you could throw in coffee instead. Some brewed coffee, some strong brew. I have never done that because I don't brew coffee at home. But if you're someone who does.
Although I'm not going to lie, I do have plans to make the sauerkraut chocolate cake for one of my upcoming like friends games nights, because we like to theme our dinners, and that's actually coming up in our rotation. So I will probably bring in leftovers.
I'll try it. I'll go for it.
I
I've
just
heard it's
wondered,
got a weird
like, I
texture,
want to
but-
know the history of like the first person that did that.
I believe it's something that was like one of those like Slavic countries was doing it first before the wars, the Great Wars, and then it became more popular during the wars as other ingredients were being rationed and stuff. I guess sauerkraut was still easier to get hand on. So it became kind of like one of those shortcut things that people would do to make do. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best idea, but doesn't make it the worst either, I guess. It's kind of in the middle. It's a gray zone. Reserving judgment until Melissa bakes it for me.
Yeah. I would love-
Will I ever bake it myself? Probably not, because I don't like sauerkraut.
Oh, I do, but yeah, I guess I would never have thought that. So, wow.
That's why I thought
Maybe
it'd be
I'll
a fun
have to bring a
twist.
tester in sometime next
I've
week.
never heard of that.
Yeah.
I can see out of all of the weird things people have put in cake, not the weirdest.
What's the weirdest?
Tomato soup.
Oh yeah, that is
What?
a weird one.
And what?
Straight there.
Wait a
Melissa.
minute. Wait.
What did you see the tomato soup in?
I cannot remember his name. He's on TikTok.
I think
With
we're
the
both
Aggies,
thinking of the
with
same exact
him.
person.
Yes, he made a tomato soup cake. It was an old recipe that he makes weird recipes. I actually have his cookbook. And there's a tomato soup cake, and apparently it tastes remarkably like chocolate. I don't know. I'm terrified to make that one. That one scares me.
That
I
one's
love
getting
tomato soup.
a resounding Aaron. Which is the strongest judgment I could give. Yeah, I've seen it was like hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
Like they wanted you to take the yolk and mash up the yolks and throw those into like it was like a vanilla-y type cake,
Already cooked.
already cooked, hard-boiled.
Hmm.
Mash up because they wanted you to mash up the yolks to kind of like make a paste almost.
I don't know how I feel about that.
No.
Because
That
why?
is a flavor.
Yeah. Also because
Very
why?
I guess I'm like, yeah.
What's the benefit?
What? Yeah. What?
They claimed it made a moister cake.
7%.
2.154% moisture. But yeah, so they say that adding that like creamed essentially egg yolk in was supposed to make the cake moister.
I feel like there's better ways to do it, though.
I think there's better ways to do it. I think it's easier just to add whole eggs into your cake. You know, like no.
I'm not sure about that.
Let's not.
No.
That's the weirdest one for me.
I can't really think of any wacky ones. Now I've got several to think of.
Yeah. I mean, applesauce is actually a good sub
Yeah, that
for
I have.
oil. I like that one. No complaints there.
Yeah, I have done that.
When in desperate times. I've even handmade my own applesauce because I didn't have cups of applesauce or oil. We were moving in, so
Sure. Yeah.
the pantry was bare. But I needed
baked goods.
baked goods, like stat.
I feel that with my
Really
soul.
feel
You know, sometimes
True.
it's just like
We should have had a pan of brownies.
you just know, like 8 o'clock at night, we were just like, gosh, I just need to have a little sweet treat.
I'm very
That's where the
familiar
cake
with
mix cookies came from. I just really
The
needed
funfettis?
yes,
Those
the
are
strawberry
delicious.
funfetti
Yeah,
cake
they're
mix
so good.
cookies. Yes, I just wanted cookies. And I didn't need the whole pan for myself, so the rest of them came here.
I love
My-
when that happens.
My like late night 2 things that I'll do will either be usually brownies with ganache on top, because ganache is super delicious but also super easy, and pretzels, which take a lot longer than I should be starting it at like 8 o'clock. But sometimes you don't want a sweet treat, you want a little salty, fluffy bite of goodness. So yeah, those are like my two. Well, unless I've been watching Bake Off.
Then you feel inspired.
Then I'm like,
You're ready for a challenge.
I could make a whole fancy thing. Let's go. And then my cat looks at me. He's like, "You're not moving, girl." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fair enough. Thank you for
No.
keeping me sane."
I feel like I have to emotionally prepare for like 3 weeks before I bake something.
Yeah.
Like actually the concept of being like, oh, it's 7 o'clock. I guess I'm just gonna bake this on a whim. Like makes me want to sob.
The thing that got me through
Really so
grad
impressed.
school is every time I was working on a big like research project or a paper, I had a bad habit of baking. So I don't know why I needed to bake every time I was working on something,
If
but
it helps, and then you hear the people
I
around
don't-
you.
I don't
have
know.
baked, they're like,
There-
oh,
I would
she's
just like
stressed.
bake random
Yes.
things.
There is a book about like
never-
rage baking, so I could see stress baking.
I
being
think it
a
was.
whole
I think it
thing.
was
Such a
stress
thing.
baking.
But I'm not a stress baker. I'm a stressed baker. Like I literally
Stressed
what like that
baking.
scares me. Like I'm not well when I'm baking. Like I need no interruptions. If someone like walks in the kitchen, like
Get out of here.
Yeah.
But it's such a safe space because everything's so orderly.
Oh,
Order
not
that.
at my house.
I
My
can't.
cats are like actively walking on the counter as I'm trying to bake.
No, Amelia has her own. She's got her special sitting spot just outside of the kitchen, so she can supervise. But she knows if I'm baking. Like she also knows if I go sit down on the couch and then the timer goes off, she immediately just moves off because she knows I'll be
She
back in 2
knows.
seconds.
Your cat's so polite.
She is. She just knows the routines.
Yours are like, I'm helping.
Mine could never not be involved.
What are proof is she's favorite things to bake?
I think they're confused every time I bake because they're like,
What's
I
going
don't
on
know.
here?
Yeah. What is?
Why have you been standing in the kitchen so long?
Yeah.
Okay, so last thing, let's do a quick round robin of like what is your favorite? Not even to bake yourself, just to eat baked type of good.
Oh, man.
We'll start with Sam or Melissa, and we'll go around. I don't care which way.
I'll just say the first thing I thought of, and it's like a cherry turnover. Like, as I love cherry pie, but sometimes I want only a little bit of the filling, and I want the full, like the turnovers with a little bit of
The turbinado sugar.
Yes.
The crystally sugar.
Yes, exactly. I bought one of those at Western Market this morning.
Oh,
Yummy.
excellent choice.
Yes.
All right, Julia.
Oh, okay. Wait. Wait a minute. I think anything that, okay, not chocolate based because I don't like chocolate that much, but has chocolate in it and salt on top.
Mm-hmm.
A flaky salt. If you put flaky salt on anything, I like it. But I guess
Could be
I
a
don't
savory thing too.
know. Well, no, not after yesterday. I'm like, I haven't moved on.
We need to make
A nice savory bagel with
Oh,
salt.
Aaron made me a bagel once, and it was really good.
That's true because we usually get them for like meetings and stuff, and Julia can't have the ones from the bakery, so
Yeah.
I baked her
That-
own batch of
oh,
bagels.
That's how have I not brought this up the whole time? I don't eat baked goods because I have a nut allergy, so I like can't have them from anywhere. So the solution would be that I bake my own, and I also don't do that. So, yeah, I love when Erin bakes me bagels,
Yes.
but also cookies that have salt on top. I just like salt, I think. That's
I
the
do
thing.
love
like a
a
chocolate
salty
chip
sweet
cookie
combo.
with
Yes.
like flaky salt.
Yes.
Yes.
Flaky salt. I have like smoked flaky salt, and it's just so tasty.
You know what I would put that on top of? A savory shortbread.
Stop.
And I
You got the
tried. I
savory
tried and that
shortbread.
didn't save
Oh
it.
no! Oh, how tragic.
I don't know. I also opened, not that shortbreads would fall, but I did open the oven like 40 times in 40 minutes. I
You
don't
gotta
know.
trust the
Guys.
process.
Yeah.
Baking is magic. You just have to let it happen.
I just
magic,
get
it's
really
science.
curious.
it's magic.
I'm pretty sure they used to think that science was magic, so it's both.
True. Okay. A lot of things are both
Yeah.
science
Yeah.
and magic. That's beautiful.
All right, Melissa, what's your favorite thing to eat?
I mean, I don't like favorites because I like
Favorites
all
are
of
hard.
them. But I mean, other than whatever I just made last, because that's usually my current favorite. I like a really good, nice, like fluffy bread roll with like a nice triple cream cheese, because it's like the equivalent of spreading the cheese version of butter
Ooh.
onto a nice warm bread roll, and I can eat like all of them.
I agree with the bread roll part.
I know both of
I'm
them.
not-
It's
their
the
heads.
dairy. It's the dairy.
I'm not a huge fan of cheese in general, but I can respect where you're coming from.
Yes.
here.
Okay, cheese
I
is
can
an
see the
entire
love.
food group for me. I
Real
could
good.
pretty much survive on cheese and bread.
Vegan alternatives for spreads. There are lots
Yeah.
of
I
great
mean,
things
there
to
could
spread on
be,
a
but-
warm, a fresh bread loaf.
No.
A really warm bread loaf, though.
And the
Like-
smell.
The smell, the
Oh,
texture,
sourdough
the
bread. I'm
Sourdough
buzzing
bread.
in.
Pretty
Wait,
good.
I lost my buzzer. That's mine. Does anyone here
we're
make
getting kicked out.
sourdough?
No, I don't. But I
Not currently.
Sorry.
I
Bringing
don't.
something up when we have to end the podcast.
All right, so very quickly because we're running out of time.
Sourdough.
I love anything with raspberries on it or fruit for my
Oh.
dessert choice.
Yay.
But that is all the time we have for today. So, thank you again for listening to another episode of A Little Too Quiet, the Ferndale Library podcast, which is brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Thank you also to John Duffy for giving us music to open and close each episode. If you want to find out more information about supporting this podcast, visit ferndalefriends.org. Please also remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you could leave us a positive review, we can find more listeners that way, and I think you're super cool if you do. We'll be back next week with more. Thanks again for listening. Bye.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So much knowledge. All right.